Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new decade. Yep, today it's New Year's Day, and I wanted to answer a question sent in to me by Colin. Colin had a really valid point. He asked about the Victure HC200. You've seen my review of this one from last year, and he asked about if he wanted to set it high up in the tree. Is there a way to see what area you're taking your pictures in, because there's no way to frame up your image if it's 10 foot up a tree. His reason for that was he didn't want it to be stolen, and I kind of get that, absolutely. And I wanted to talk to you about a few ways I mount my camera, and also how I secure it against theft and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, Victure don't have a wireless range or wireless feature with these cameras. Maybe it's something they could do in the future. It would be handy to be able to look on your smartphone and see what you've got in frame before you set the camera rolling. One of the ways I said about ensuring that what you're looking at is going to be in frame is to, if I demonstrate, I need to find a bit of twig or something. Obviously you could get a block of wood, but if you put that against the tree before your camera, you'll see that it angles the camera down. So if you're 10 foot in a tree, you know that you're looking down at the area you want to catch. So that would be one way. I don't ever set these up high in the trees, but that's because, as I say, I've got my own way of mounting them and my own way of securing them, and I'm going to show you that now. So let's get this set up on the tree, and I'll show you some of the tricks up my sleeve. Right, so I've located my tree. I'm going to use this one. I'm 6'2", so you can see it's about 5 feet off the ground, and I'm going to be pointing it down towards the river here. You get a lot of deer and things through here. I've even got some leftovers from today's Sunday lunch that I'm going to put down to see if we can't capture something tonight. So obviously, being this low down, there's a public footpath just here behind us. Lots of dog walkers, lots of kids come through this way. There is a risk of it being picked up, risk of it being stolen. But what I'm going to do first is just mount the camera with the straps. I mean, I don't have to worry too much about the frame or the framing here, because I already know where it's pointing is pretty good to get the shots I want. So I want it about there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the strap on and tighten that up. So if you guys haven't already seen my recent videos on the Victure range, I have now tested and looked at all the cameras in the range. The HC200 here is still one of my favourites, next to the 300 So HC300 is actually one of my new favourites in the range. So that's the camera, nice and secure on there. But obviously if someone wanted to take it, they could. They just undo the strap. So how do I secure it? Well, obviously there's two ways. You've got the padlock thing here, so people won't steal your memory card. For that one, I have a very simple padlock somewhere. I did have one. Just a simple combination one. I find with the key ones, the problem I always have is remembering to take the key with me, or losing the key, because it does take a very small padlock, and that's the problem. But you can see that's now on there, and no one can now get into the camera because there's a padlock on it. But what about the actual camera, which is what Colin was getting at? He wanted to leave his up high so no one could get to it easily. But let's face it, someone walking by, they're not going to bother with it. It's someone that's out looking for your camera really that's going to get it, or someone out that's inclined to steal things. So whether it's up high or down low, and if it's down low with security on it, if they're going to take it, they're going to take it. They're going to come back with bolt cutters, all sorts, to take it. Luckily these cameras aren't expensive. That's not an excuse. That's not me condoning people stealing them because they're cheap. and easy to replace, but it's not like you've got £1,000 worth of camera stuck to a tree. But there is a way. Now, I use these. You can buy them if you're in the UK from Mountain Warehouse. They're little combination locks, and they've got a really long cable on them. So what I'm going to do now is install this. This is a fairly wide tree. I might need to loosen it up a bit actually. I've got a bit ahead of myself here and put it on tight. I'm hoping that'll go through. I'm just going to have to loosen it off just a touch. And then you can get your fingers behind just to feed it through. Now I know with the HC200 I said about it didn't have this big cage for mounting on the back, and I like that as a feature, and I do. But this 200 does, the cage does give you the option to use this lock. Now as I say, this is a big tree, but the lock will still go all the way around it. And there we go, and you just change the combination, and now even if they undone the strap, they can't get through it, or they won't be able to take off this lock. So I'm quite happy to leave this here now, knowing that it's completely safe. No one can get it off the tree unless they come down here with some heavy duty bolt cutters, and I know the camera's not going to go anywhere. So that is, you know, one of my tricks to securing it when it's not up high. Now again, it all depends where you're going to be placing these cameras. You know, if you're going to place it in a public place, then yeah, Colin, you're right. Maybe if you stuck it up high, use that trick I showed you earlier with a bit of wood, so the camera angles away from the tree a bit. If you've got something wedged behind it, it will angle down, and you know you're framed up. Or failing that, like I say, these locks, they're only a couple of pounds from Mountain Warehouse. You can probably get them online. Type in mini bike lock or something like that. And you know it's safe. So that's one option. Obviously, if you make some sort of I don't know, other cage or something for this, you could use a proper heavy duty bike lock. But I've never had problems with these miniature ones. They've always done me well. I've never lost the camera. You watch, we'll come back tomorrow to pick the camera up and it's gone. But no, these locks are quite heavy duty. It means you can have your camera low and you haven't got to worry about someone stealing it. So what I'm going to do for tonight, you probably can't tell too much, but it is getting really dark now. It's only about 4:30 as well. But obviously being in the middle of winter in the UK, it gets dark fairly early. So I'm going to set the camera up, put the leftovers down, leave the camera here tonight, and I'll pick up with you guys in the morning. Morning guys. Excuse the footage, I'm on my phone. I really couldn't be bothered to bring out the camcorder and stuff and all the sound gear, so I'm just on my phone. We're going to go down and pick the camera up that I left out last night. One, make sure it's still there. Two, check if we've got any footage on it. And three, I'm just going to go over a couple more of the ways that I would mount it, or how you might mount it. I know from my previous HC200 video, a lot of people are interested in using it as a security camera. Now obviously if you were doing it that way, you could use the little tripod mount thing that comes with it, screw it to a fence post, and it's in your garden. You ain't got to worry too much about it being stolen, so you wouldn't really have to worry. You could get some metal cord and padlock it up if you wanted to, or even one of the locks that I showed you last night. But let's get down to the spot, pick the camera up and see what's what. Alright, so just come off the footpath here, approaching where the camera is, which is still there. But I'm also seeing a lot of the food that I laid down last night is still here. You see the carrot and stuff. So it doesn't look like we had any visitors to the zone last night, but we'll see. As you can see, camera's still there. Let's have a closer look at the lock that I showed you last night. As I say, there's still quite a lot of giving that, so we could go around a bigger tree yet. And all it does is, you know, it's a 3-digit combination, and then it's just like a carabiner. Just unclips. Not bad. I think I paid about £3 for them, so they're not expensive at all. Let's turn the camera off. Let's take the lock off. And like I say, I mean, that's so easy to do. Battery's still going strong. As I say, one of the things with these is the battery life is pretty good, to be fair. I've never had any issues with my other cameras. I'll take the lock off in a minute. But as I was saying on the way down here and last night about the if you wanted it higher up and wanted to make sure your feeding zone or the trail that you're looking at is in good shot. So there's a few tricks. I'm going to be a bit crude about it and find a twig or a fairly sizable branch. Something like that will do. So all you do is, I mean, you've got your branch there, loosen off the strap a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed while I hold the phone. All you do is angle it forward and wedge your stick or branch in, and now you'll see that is at an angle off the tree, so it's looking down at the floor. So you could either use something like the branch so it's camouflaged with the tree, or you could use door wedges or door openers, and you could put more in there to, you know, exaggerate or bring off the angle on it, or a piece of 2x2 timber cut into a little square, a little block which fit behind there. I use this sort of trick actually with a piece of wood on the top. In my reptile room, I've got a CCTV system. Now, if the monitor is flat mounted to the wall, when you're sat in your chair or your desk, you can't actually see the screen very well because you're sat at a completely different angle to the screen. So all I've done with my TV mount is the top 2 holes on the bracket, I've got a bit of 2x2 timber behind. So the bracket is mounted like this, away from the wall, and that angles the monitor down and I get a better view of it. That's when I started doing this with the cameras. So if I'm up high and I'm looking down on a low position, now rather than mount my camera really low, I can have it high up still, put a piece of timber behind to make it come out from the tree, and it is pointing down at my area rather than straight on, with the chance of missing anything on the ground. So although these don't have a remote feature where you can wirelessly watch what it's looking at, there are tricks to make sure your area is in shot. So that is the way I'd go if you're worried about security, you didn't have a lock and you wanted to mount it higher up in the tree, by angling the camera with a simple trick like that. As I say, if you loosen it off more, you get a much tighter angle. That would be the way forward, most definitely. It points the camera down, you know that your area is in shot, and you haven't got to worry about the camera being stolen because it's 10 or 15 feet up in the tree. That's the way forward, I think. until Victor bring out a wireless feature on the cameras. Unfortunately, that's the only way you're going to be able to ensure that your area is in the full frame of the camera. And it's a very simple trick, and as I say, by using a piece of branch or something as well, you know, it doesn't, you know, exaggerate the look of the camera. You haven't got a big white piece of timber there that stands out against a moss covered tree. So that's the way forward. What I'm going to do now is we're going to have a quick look, see if I've got any footage on the camera, and if I have, that would be what you see next. Right, so it doesn't look like I captured much last night, which was to be expected considering the food still sat there. Unfortunately, nothing came through, which isn't unusual for this time of year, but you know, I would have liked to have caught a couple of things just to show off the camera again, but no, it wasn't to be. So then guys, that's the various mounting options and security protection devices for any wildlife cam, not just the Victure range, but if you're worried about your wildlife camera being stolen, or you're worried about getting your, you know, your trail in shot, there's a few tips for you. Hopefully you enjoyed that and got something beneficial from it. As I say, it's my first video of 2020, so wish you all a very happy and healthy 2020, and all the best for the new year. And I will see you very, very soon. We've got a lot coming up, lots of new stuff happening this year, some new camera equipment coming that I'm going to show you guys, as well as put to work this year. So yeah, lots and lots of exciting stuff to come. If you haven't already seen my actual review of this camera, it's on this one. Make sure you subscribe here, and if you're into exotic pets, check out my other channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.